Well, good morning, everyone. I wanted to welcome everyone to our ongoing effort to get to know the leadership at Carroll Lutheran Village. And today we are honored to have Ann McDermott, who is our Assistant Executive Director here at Carroll Lutheran Village. I am Ken Connelly. I am the Vice President of Operations for Lutheran Social Ministries of Maryland, and would like to just thank everyone for viewing and getting to know Ann better today. So with that said, I'm going to go through some questions with Ann. And so, again, the intent is to make sure everybody gets to know Ann a little bit better and what she does here at Carroll Lutheran Village. So, Ann, tell us about Ann McDermott. Tell us, where were you born? Where did you go to school? And specifically, tell us a little bit about your career that led up to getting here.
Sure, because my career is a little bit, actually I've had two careers, so we can talk a little bit about that. I was born and raised in Nebraska, okay? And not in Omaha or Lincoln, which are the big cities. I was raised in a town of about 40,000, and it's called Grand Island, and it's the center of the state. And you'll say, why is it called Grand Island? Well, it's because we're surrounded by two rivers. And so we were actually below sea level, if you can believe that. So forget, in the winter time being able to, sled. There were no hills, okay? It was flat. So it's flat. And so, but it was a really supportive, wholesome community. And I'm really fortunate to have grown up in that kind of an atmosphere. And I went to college in Omaha to a Jesuit university called Creighton University. And then I went to graduate school. Well, my major in college was both a double major in political science and history. And then I went to the University of Minnesota. I got a fellowship to the University of Minnesota, and my master's degree was in international relations. Because oddly enough, when I was going through school, I kind of wanted to do State Department foreign service work. And what happened then is when I was finishing my master's degree, that was when you had the Iranian crisis, and you had all those hostages taken, which had never taken place before, with foreign service in a foreign country. And I think deep down that kind of tainted me, and I never really pursued it. I went through the first test for State Department work, and but then the second test, I think subconsciously I blew it because I knew I really didn't want to do that. So with my master's degree in international relations, lo and behold, the U.S. Senator from Nebraska, his name was Ed Zirinsky, and Ed hired me over the phone, okay? Only did phone interviews, no Skype at that time, okay? And so he hired me after about a 5-minute conversation.
What would Ed have done today?
Yeah, he would have absolutely done the Skype, And so anyway, I was all excited. Here I was moving to Washington, D.C. So I worked on Capitol Hill on the Senate side for almost 3 years. He was on the Foreign Relations Committee, so it was a nice mix. So I was able to use a lot. What did I do? If you know anything about Capitol Hill, they have committee staff, and for committee members, they do the bulk of the work. So I was basically assisting committee staff and responding to a lot of constituent inquiries and meeting with constituents when they would come to Capitol Hill. So after that,
and that's what brought you to?
That's what brought me to DC.
Okay. Cool.
And after that, then I worked in Annapolis for a few years for an up-and-coming state legislator. His name was Stuart Bainham Jr. And his father had created ManorCare. And those of you that are from this area know ManorCare nursing homes. They were kind of prolific. Actually, they were across the country. We were one of the largest nursing home chains in the country. And I worked for Stuart in Annapolis and really got along well. He ran for Congress and lost, but he brought a number of the people from the campaign into the company. And so I became director of government relations. They had never had a lobbyist before for the company. So I rose up the ranks at ManorCare from director and became actually vice president of government relations there after I was there probably 14, 15 years.
Yeah.
And I think I was a big VP the last 2 or 3 years. You know, one of the things that was on this list of questions is, what are you proud of? One of the things I was proud of is because at that point in time, women were still having a glass ceiling issue. And although there were vice presidents, women vice presidents in the field at ManorCare, at corporate, not so much. And so that was clearly,
But it's changed now.
yeah, clearly, yeah, it has.
Rightfully so.
But you know, that was back in, you know, the 90s. And so there was still a glass ceiling of sorts, and I was glad that I was able to become vice president. And that was a lot of fun. I managed a big department. We had, not internal department, but I had 6 teams of state consultants. I had a group of consultants on Capitol Hill, and then also it was CMS. At that point, it was called HIGFA, Healthcare Finance Administration, Healthcare Finance. So I guided and directed all these teams of consultants. We did a lot of fundraising, and unlike what happens today, we actually supported both Republicans and Democrats, basically more moderates, because those are the people you want to work with to get something done. And it was very successful. It was an exciting career. Working on Capitol Hill was great, but I really loved, honestly, working at the state level, because states are where a lot of experimentation takes place, a lot of new ideas are tried out. Federal Hill tends to be a little bit bogged down with all the lobbyists and the interest groups, and so I really liked working in states like Florida, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Illinois, you know, even Texas, states like that. So, you know, again, it's a different atmosphere at the state level, and you can try different things and accomplish different things. But they sold the company, and for a few years, I didn't want to move to Toledo, which is the headquarters of the company that we were sold to. And so I worked for a trade association for Assisted Living Federation of America.
That was Alpha at the time? Right.
Alpha. And what I did there was basically track everything going on at the state level, both in terms of legislation and regulation of the assisted living industry. For those of you that aren't aware, assisted living is not a federally defined benefit.
Good point.
And so it's really regulated at the state level. The state level is where all the action is, and that's why my position was pretty important. You know, and then after a few years of that, I had friends from the newly combined company, HCR ManorCare, come back to me and say, hey, do you want to try operations? You know him, Mike Reed.
I do, and that's where Ann and I officially met.
Yeah.
And
I was the first executive director in training. So I actually went from government relations to operations, which was almost the equivalent of a change in career.
Right.
And that was at age 49. Okay, 49, you're changing careers. And, but you know, I was lucky enough to get a good facility in the DC area. And you know, again, you know, you're talking about what I'm proud of.
Yeah.
I created, like, we went from a mediocre assisted living operation, and again, we're taking care of dementia care residents only. That was not general assisted living, dementia specific. And we became the #1. You can attest to this, the #1 building.
I can. That's for everyone. I spent a good portion of my career at HCR ManorCare and supported Ann's building in her community in the position that I was at. And what Ann did as an executive director at that level for HCR ManorCare, running an operation for dementia specific, is not an easy thing to do. So
no, it is, but it's really rewarding. And you know, so we created the #1 building, and we were #1 for a number of years, and always were in the top 3 or 4 in the company throughout my tenure. And that I did that for about 14, 15 years. And
that's a long time in that position.
But you know what? As we had an excellent relationship, we scored 98 to 100% every year on customer satisfaction. And then we also scored, in terms of retention of our employees. I had a retention rate of 89%, which was the best in the company. And that's because you treat your employees well. If you treat your employees well and you recognize and appreciate and reward, they're gonna stay with you. And I was fortunate to have a terrific team. So the question is, well, then why did you leave?
So from government to operations to focused on dementia care, assisted living. How did you land up in Carroll Lutheran Village? Which is great. We're lucky to have him with all that experience. So tell us a little bit about that.
It was called COVID, okay? And we had COVID hit our operation. And with assisted living and everybody walking around in an open environment, you can't sequester these people. It's very difficult. A dementia person, because they're just gonna want to be on the move and they're gonna wanna touch people all the time. And so it became a challenge, and my gosh, I remember working 12 days straight in a row when we had the first outbreak. And I had a 64-bed facility. We had 22 people that were diagnosed with COVID. We had 4 residents die, and that is tragic, but it could have been much worse. And because it's a different kind of environment in dementia care. But we were getting tired, I was getting tired, and my team was getting tired. And I had a call from Ken, and this was in early June, and because, I was getting burned out and I could almost feel it. And Ken said, and called me in his opening line, have you had enough yet? And I said, well, yeah, I think I am hitting that level. And when you're an executive director, and appreciate this with John, you were on call 24/7. 24/7.
Even at the position you were at, not only were you on call 24/7, but it's a you're heavily involved with.
Yes, you don't have nearly the team. I had 6 department heads, but there's nobody under a department head. So there is no, basically, I don't even want to say bench strength, but there's no one to delegate to, because this is a small center and you are everything. So during COVID, I was back. I was suited up every day going back in that wing. It was a miracle that I think we had 2 or 3 employees that contracted COVID, and they did primarily because they got it at their other jobs. They were part-time people. But that kind of took it out of me. And, and I was also concerned about round 2, surge 2.
Right.
I had a medical director. I was fortunate to have a medical director who literally came in during COVID every week and looked at every resident, whether or not she was the medical director for that particular person. So I was fortunate to have an incredibly dedicated medical worker, but she told me in June, I'm done, and we had our surge in late April, May, and the surge lasted for 6 to 8 weeks. And so here I was thinking about, I'm gonna lose my medical director. We had lost census, not so much because people had perished, but because we weren't allowed to admit during this time. Everything was shut down. So I knew that we were going to have problems with census, and then with the adjusted census, there was going to be problems potentially with staffing. And I did not want to release my good staff that I had worked with for years. It would have broken my heart to have to lay off people that, like I said, that I worked with for 8 or 10 or 12 years.
So things were tough.
Things were tough, and I knew what was coming down the road, but I also knew that I still felt I could contribute. And John, when I met with John, John was so animated, and so was I. And I still was enthusiastic about delivering good care. I still thought, I'm good at training, I'm good at organizational skills. I can take some of, John's, because John had a lot on his plate, continues to have a lot on his plate, but I'm able to assist him in that way. But I don't have that crushing feeling of that 24/7 and total responsibility. It's different when you're in charge. You take things personally, I know I did, and it's, you know, but it's also can take it out of you.
So you're, and what, so just to kind of step back, so Ann was, you know, there, unfortunately over the past year and a half, we've seen a lot of individuals that work in healthcare that have just gotten burned out.
Yeah.
They've gotten burned out, and they have transitioned to totally different careers, which is fine. My thought was, I would really hate to lose Ann out of this industry. So I gave it a full press and got her here, and it's been good for us. It's been good for the residents, and it's been, as you can see, it's been good for Ann. And Ann, with her dementia background, is really going to help us with a lot more training.
Right, in the weeks and months to come. And you know, it's a different pace, I'll be honest with you. Montgomery County is on hyperdrive, so it's a little slower pace. You know, I find everybody here just so hospitable. And what I loved about it too, I'm learning still, because I didn't do residential living. I did assisted living, and in my lobbying capacity, I did a lot with skilled nursing. So I've learned residential living, and I love to continue to learn. And if you aren't learning, then you're kind of stagnating.
And I know you had mentioned that you've learned a lot from the residents.
Yeah.
From our residents here at Carroll Lutheran Village. I know I have, and I know you have as
Yeah.
well.
And you know, the residents that do know me know that I'm kind of passionate about, you know, maintaining a good product and in keeping with good customer service. You know, we're here to serve you, and we're here to make you happy and make you comfortable, and that's our job. And so it's amazing to me when I call people back, they said, oh my gosh, you called me back so quickly. Well, that's my job. That's my job, is to serve you and to do whatever I can to make this a great operation here, you know, at Carroll Lutheran.
So, and that's appreciate sharing your story, how you got here. It's, you know, it's still stressful to some degree with the pandemic, and we're hearing about different strains and variants of COVID. And so once you get home and you're at home, what are some of your hobbies? What do you like to do?
Right. Well, a couple things. I have a Malamute. Okay, she's 90 pounds. Her name is Mika, and I'm part of the Malamute Rescue Association. She was a rescue, and I help with this little trade association, because what they do is we help transport dogs, you know, and foster care dogs occasionally. And so that's what I do, and I do fundraising for them. So with Mika every day, she doesn't care if I'm tired. She wants to go for her walk, you know? And it's good, because it actually keeps me fit. Every morning I'm getting up at 6 a.m. and I'm walking Mika. And so that's good. I have my Melanie. My brother just moved in. He is a retired priest. And so he just moved into my house. He came from Nebraska as well. And so he brought his beagle, so that if all of you can appreciate this, trying to balance two dogs, and they're kind of fighting for attention. So this is going to be interesting. It's like having a blended family. But I said to somebody the other day, if the Brady Bunch can do it, we can do it too, okay? But I'm not used to my brother. He's eating a lot, okay? So I am having to cook a lot. So for the first day, he's been here 6 weeks. And first time ever he's making dinner. So we'll see how it goes by the end of the day. You know, we'll see what kind of a dinner it's going to be. I'm also heavily involved in my church. I do Eucharistic ministry in some of the nursing homes in Frederick. I'm an usher at the church. I'm heavily involved in St. Catherine Drexel. And it's just really good parish community. Everybody is very supportive. And you know, even post-COVID, we've been able to capture almost all of our people. You know, there was some concern, maybe they wouldn't come back to church. They pretty much all come back to church. And so we're kind of trying to reacquaint and reintroduce, you know, social activities, that kind of thing at St. Catherine Drexel. I did the social committee there, and I've also done, you know, like I said, ushering, Eucharistic ministry, you know, so I'm heavily involved there. And I'm heavily involved in a political party in the Frederick area, but I'm not gonna talk about that, okay? Because, you know, it is what it is.
Let's keep it clean,
I
right?
keep the politics away
That's
from
right.
Carroll Lutheran Village. Okay, so, but I am involved at the local level. Local level, it's not into personalities, and it's not so much into the policies of a particular party. It's more, who's gonna pick up my trash? You know, and how well are they going to clean, you know, the
Right.
sidewalks and the roads once it snows. So it's much more of community constituent-based services.
Just kind of switching gears.
Sure.
Yeah, we talked about the pandemic a lot, and during our conversation, and we are, you know, obviously Carroll Lutheran Village is a very exciting time in more ways than one. We're got a couple big projects going on, and you know, I think having Ann on board with you know, supporting John and the team here is going to be very important. And how do you what do you think how is COVID going to play into some of these projects? You think it will?
You know, I think you just have to take it one day at a time.
That's right.
And, you know, I mean, I think the big push, you know, I was so excited, as was everyone here, that we had such a high participation rate in terms of the vaccine.
That's right.
The vaccination is what's going to save us. And all those other steps can assist, i.e. wearing masks, social distancing. But the vaccination is what's going to save us. If we have to do a booster in the fall, you know, that might be up for consideration. I know they're thinking about that at the national level. So, I mean, I think this is a public health crisis. If we can get everybody rallied across the country, the faster we get vaccinated, the faster this is going to go away.
Right. And I know with the projects going on, there will be a lot of procedures and protocols implemented that Ann's going to be involved with to keep everyone safe. And make this really a win-win for everybody, and we're really looking forward to it. So about 3-4 weeks ago, we were happy to be walking around and feeling as though we were on the back end of the pandemic, and we still are. But just in the past week or two, the Delta variant has really gotten a lot of attention, and it continues to get some attention. So we're keeping an eye on it and communicating and messaging to our residents processes and protocols, and strongly encouraging those to be followed. And so there is a little bit of caution moving forward, but to back up a little bit, when COVID finally settled down, when I say settled down, I think we caught a little bit of a breather back, I would say, at the end of April, May of this year. And a lot of people, including myself, things were starting to reopen up again.
Right.
And we were very, very grateful for that. And I know myself, I was thinking, geez, when things start to open up again, where's one of the first places I'm going to go that I haven't been able to go to? And for me, it was actually my gym. And it was, you know, great to see everybody back at the gym. How about you, Ann? When you were thinking about when this gets better, where
did I go?
Yeah,
that was easy. You know, I went home to Nebraska for the first time in 2 years. I hadn't seen my sister or brother in 2 years. My sister is, I have a twin sister. We do not look alike, we're fraternal. And she's much more quiet and demure. I'm much more like my brother. And so my sister and brother and I and my sister's husband got together, and that was the first time we'd been together in 2 years. So that was easy. It was a little nerve-wracking because you know, on the plane, the planes were packed, but you know what? Everybody was so excited. Even at that point in time, all the people working at the airlines were so excited because things were coming back to normal. This was in mid-May. And so, so we had just a wonderful time together and just hanging out together. You know, Skyping is great, telephoning is great, but it's not the same as in person. It's just not.
Another question related that and part of questioning and trying to get to know somebody better is, and I know when I did my interview early in January of this year with Jeff, I think the question was, who would I like to have lunch or dinner with? If I could choose anyone to have lunch or dinner with, who would it be? And at that time, I chose Dr. Fauci. And so I would still like to have lunch or dinner with Dr. Fauci.
Okay, that's
and pick his brain a little bit more.
That's very timely, very timely.
So, Ann, if
Well,
you could choose anyone to have alive, anyone that's passed, who would you like to?
This is going to sound corny, but then again, I come from Nebraska. I choose my mom. My mom passed away about 15 years ago, and she was probably the biggest influence in my life. She was a major achiever herself. She was one of 8 kids. She was the only one at that point in time to go through college, #1 in her nursing class, and then she went for anesthesia training in Texas. She scored the highest in the state of Nebraska on the boards, on nursing boards. I'm not even sure when that was ever broken because it was such, but yeah, and she earned all the money before she went to school. And so, and my mom, great supporter, but also a very, very good friend. And I've missed her. And so I would choose her. You know, you would think with my political science and history background, I'd choose someone else.
I thought you were going to talk about one of the past presidents. Or
Exactly. I think you were going to do that. But actually, it just is no. The easiest would, I'd love to be able to have lunch with my mom. So say, hey, how do you think I'm doing?
Right.
Hey, because she was never one to be shy about stating her opinion, but then also give me advice, so about the future. So
very, very good answer. And since you've gotten here, it's been almost a year, and a lot of it has been, again, supporting the initiatives around the pandemic and several of the departments. But I know there was a project that you took on a couple months ago that was very natural. And when I say that, I mean the garden.
The garden, yeah.
Tell the residents about, I don't know if everyone knows about the gardens, but I thought it was kind of neat, and Ann and a couple other team members here really pulled together and started 1 or 2 gardens. Is that right?
Well, no, we actually on the upper gardens, so it's on, I think the Wakefield Estates is the term. And, but we're up there with some of the residents. I know Kathy Lauber's got a plot, Grant Connelly's got a plot. And I apologize for, others that I'm missing, but we had some open areas. And the Rotary Club was kind enough, they want to create pollinator gardens. It's kind of a national initiative on the part of the Rotary Clubs everywhere. So the Rotary people contacted Ken contacted me, and so I worked with them. They donated a lot of the plants. They came in and actually planted with some of these, what they're creating are pollinator gardens. And it's because we're kind of in an eco age now, that we've got to protect our environment.
That's exactly right, with our LED initiatives, solar initiatives.
It's all about how we can save our environment, and I'm a big believer in that. And we had these empty spaces, and under Melissa Batten's direction, because I am taking my guidance from her, we've planted a lot of vegetables and herbs. And some of you have received some of those because we've had squash, we've had zucchini, we've actually got some green beans. Our beets are starting to grow, they're a little bit behind, but we've got a lot of herbs. Anybody who wants to go up, and please we've got big basil bushes, and we've got thyme, and we've got rosemary, we've got, lavender, so we've got a lot out there. And so everybody is welcome to take. So I am up there at least once or twice a week, either watering or weeding. And honestly, guys, it's kind of nice and clears your mind. And it's
Yes.
you know, I tend to do it now on Friday afternoons because it's kind of a nice way to kind of segue into the weekend kind of thing, so.
So if you haven't seen the pollinator gardens, is that
Yes.
right?
Pollinator garden, because we've planted a lot of, you know, different kinds of plants that attract bees,
Right.
that attract
Butterflies, right.
butterflies as well, monarch butterflies. And Grant it's, you know, milkweed, blue mist, black-eyed Susans, those kinds of plants. And they're perennials. So what we've got planted this year is looking good, but next year will be even better because they're perennials.
Great.
And we just planted a week or two ago the seeds for our pumpkins, because we're hoping to have pumpkins for fall.
It's too early for that.
It's too early, but I'm just saying, we're just planting them. They're just popping up now. Okay, so.
So Ann's, she's getting her hands in the dirt,
Yeah.
literally. And we're very, very, very fortunate to have Ann and her experience and her expertise and different segments of senior living, and hopefully the plan moving forward, since the pandemic has winded down to some degree. You'll start seeing Ann a lot more out in out around campus, at some of our resident meetings and association meetings.
You know, I substituted for Jess while she was on maternity leave, Jess Andrews. So I loved it because I had an opportunity to meet the women of the social committee, women and men, and wellness committee as well. And I do work also with the Interior Care and Concern Committee. And really that's how I've had an opportunity to meet and really spend some time with a lot of you.
Great.
So
just wanted to say, Ann, it's been a pleasure getting to know you a lot better after almost a year. And
well, you've known me for 15 years.
I have. And I take credit for bringing her here too. So just wanted to say thank you, and look forward to seeing everybody around campus. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.